Hello, welcome to another 254 repair video on tablet repair. In this one, we're going to cover the Toshiba tablet AT300SE and also applies to the AT305SE. Um, as you can see, we already got started. We took it apart. We took the back cover off of it, and now we're going to go ahead and take the screws from the logic board. And we're gonna go ahead and get started with the disassemble and the removal of the logic board from the frame. Now that we got the last screw off, we're gonna go ahead and remove the connectors for the LCD for the front facing camera, which is the one that we're doing right now, and the rear facing camera, so we can remove that logic board and put it in our bench and start removing that charging port. In the case of this tablet, as you can see, we're looking a little bit lost and we can't find the charging port, and there it is. It fell off the logic board itself. So it was so damaged that it was no longer attached to the logic board. And so the next step that we need to do is check to see if there is any damage on the logic board itself. Um, Obviously, so we can put this new charging port that we got right next to this one. So we place our logic board in our workbench. We use a handy dandy tool to hold it in place while we work on it. And we pull in our microscope so we can go ahead and check the um, condition of the logic board, see if it requires further repair. It doesn't, so we're gonna go ahead and right into it. Sorry we can't show you the images on the microscope. Basically, it's a little bit bigger image of what you're looking at right now, which should be HD, and you should be able to see all the details. Um, so we start by preparing the surface on the logic board for the new charging port. We need to apply soldering paste, which is that liquid that it's on the charging port, and we gonna use braided wire, or actually I think the proper name for it is wick, soldering wick, and we're gonna remove the excess solder that is on the charging port, and we're gonna go ahead and fast forward this part because it's a little bit tedious, and it's basically cleaning. And as you can see, what we're trying to achieve is to leave it nice and shiny and flat without excess of solder. If you get your soldering wick stuck, go ahead, apply a little bit more solder, and you should be able to get it out. And we continue cleaning up, and the main thing is that we need those holes empty so we can place the little legs of the new charging port into them. So this is our final result. We got it nice and shiny, and those holes are clear. And we're gonna go ahead and place the new charging port where it belongs. As you can see, is a really tiny little piece of metal, so we want to make sure that it's properly placed, and go ahead and apply a little bit of solder on each one of those legs on each side. That will hold it in place so we can go ahead and do the important soldering, which is the tracks of the charging port itself that do the electrical connection to the logic board. So here we are, we got a better view for you of the back of the charging port. We're gonna go ahead and take those little connectors from the brand new charging port and push them down so they touch the tracks on the logic board. Um, it can be done before you place it on the logic board. In this case, we kind of made the mistake of waiting until it was soldered to realize that it was separated from the board. So we're gonna go ahead and push them down and start the soldering of each one of them. In the soldering process, we're gonna use a different technique. Uh, what you're gonna see is that we're gonna apply solder to every single one of them, and we're gonna make a big soldering mess, a big blob of solder. All of them are gonna be shorted out. All of them are gonna be interconnected with solder. Once we achieve that and we ensure that every single one of them has a really good connection with the logic board, and at the same time they're soldered together, which that is undesirable, that's when we're gonna bring that soldering wick that you saw earlier, the braided wire, and we're gonna remove the excess solder with that. And what you're gonna see is that is a pretty good outcome, and the quality of the solder is pretty good. Each one of those little connectors are touching and solder with the board. So um, let's go ahead and fast forward the process so you can get to the final result. And be very careful not to overheat each one of those. If you're doing it one by one, please be careful not to overheat them, because if you apply too much heat, what's going to happen is those tracks are going to come off the board. So like I said, in this process, now we're going to remove the excess solder from the last job, and start removing the excess solder from the connector themselves. And as you watch, you'll see how all that solder is getting sucked into the braided wire, and it's going to leave a clear and and a really good um, connection, and at the same time clean and not shorted out between the conductors. We getting close to our final result. Here it is. As you can see, they're not touching each other. It is properly soldered. So the last step is that metal bracket that seems to be like a protector for the connectors. That we're gonna go ahead and solder it. It has two little holes in the board that is sticking into. So we're gonna go ahead and secure them there, and that will finalize all the soldering that we're gonna do on this board. And there's one, and soon there will be two, and here we go. That's the last soldering that we're gonna do on this board, and we are done. Now we're gonna reverse the process. We're gonna go ahead and assemble the tablet back again. Don't worry, we're not gonna drag you to that slow process. We're gonna fast forward this. Um, Basically, you're gonna put that uh, board back in place. You're gonna put the screws back in place. You're gonna put all the connectors back in place, and we're gonna go ahead and test our charging port. At the beginning of the video, we didn't take the time to show you, but this computer, since it had a bad charging port and it's not an external battery, the battery was completely dead, and the tablet, sorry, I said computer, the tablet will not turn on at all. And obviously you saw the charging port was broken completely off the board, so there was no electricity. Even if you plugged in a charger, the tablet will not turn on. At the end of this process, the objective is to see the tablet charge and turn on. So that's what we hoping is going to happen at the end. So like I said, let's continue to fast forward this even a little bit faster so we can get to it. And here we are at the very end. We got our charging cable plugged in. We're pressing the power button, and voila, our tablet is on. Since the battery is not charged, it's most likely gonna collapse. I mean, it's not collapse, but it's not gonna fully boot up. In fact, what I'm gonna do right now is pull out the cable and show you that the tablet actually uh, depends on that charging port to be on. We're gonna finish assembling it, and once we are done, we're gonna go ahead and hook it up back to the charging cord and let it fully charge. Be advised that our experience with Toshiba tablets is that if you do not have a 10-watt charger, like the original charger that comes with the tablet, if you hook it up to one of those small block iPhone or Android tablet chargers, excuse me, it's not going to charge. That tablet is just going to trip the charger, and it's not going to charge. So make sure that you have the original that is in good condition, and or make sure that you have a 10-watt USB charger. And final test, make sure everything is clipped properly, and we're gonna go ahead and plug in the power. And there it is, charging.